years I've lived in North Queensland, I've never seen the Barren Falls look so good. Mind you, it takes an awful lot of rain to make them flow like this. All this rain makes things pretty uncomfortable in the bush. To my mind, there's nothing worse than breaking a wet camp. For a start, everything is absolutely saturated. What's the other point about having wet gear up here, particularly in this climate, is the fact that it's only a matter of days before the mildew sets in. So what you got to do is dry it all out, hopefully before you have to use it again, so that doesn't happen. Well, I know a place just up the way here a bit, and I reckon I can do that there, even in this rain. At least I hope I can. The place I've got in mind is right on the edge of the Atherton tableland. On this trip, I'm heading west, round the Gulf Country and across the Territory, to a really special place called Jasper Gorge. Along the track, there are a few things worth having a bit of a look at. Places like the lava tubes at Undara. Just leave that there to dry for a bit. While that's happening, I'll have a look around the place here. Bit of an explore. These enormous tubes were formed when the Undara volcano last erupted, and that was about 190,000 years ago. Way back then, the lava flowed out of the crater and along the old riverbeds, and as the lava cooled, it formed these long tubes. These days, you can walk through these tubes, but to get inside, you have to find a spot where the roof has collapsed. These lava tubes are part of a huge network, pretty close to 100 kilometres long. They're a bit like caves. They've even got their own bats. If you keep your eyes open, it's amazing what you can find. Things that you don't often get to see. This might look like a rusty old water pipe, but it's not. It's a tree root. There's a tree up there obviously sent its roots all the way down here looking for water. Over there is another mob. A whole bunch of them coming down. My guess is right, they're probably figs. Yeah, we'll soon find out anyway. Just cut a bit of that bark away. Yeah. That sticky white sap tells me it's a fig up there somewhere. Here's the culprit here. This old fig tree sending his roots right down into the ground. You've got a couple of little young figs growing there. They're not quite ripe. They'll be ready shortly. But really the interesting thing up here that I saw a minute ago is this tree over here, because this is a very, very special tree to this particular area. You know, out of all our early explorers we had in this country, there weren't too many of them who actually tried to eat some of the bush tuckers around the place. But one bloke, a fellow called Leichhardt, he came through this part of the world here, I think it was around about 1840 or something, around about then, and he ate a fruit off this tree here. You reckon it tasted like German rye bread. And these days the common name for this tree is Leichhardt's breadfruit tree of the Lind. There's a couple up here. Let's get them. That's what they look like. Just peel them away and eat them. I've never tried them before, but I'll have a go at them. Mind you, just because Leichhardt ate them doesn't mean much. That fellow got so hungry at one stage, he even cut up his saddlebags, boiled them up and ate them. He was pretty desperate. I'm not that desperate, but I'll have a go at these. Just peel the outside here a bit. It's a bit furry. There we go. Get rid of that. Bit mealy, very dry. It does sort of have a bread, nutty sort of flavour to it. Whole grain bread. Yeah, not bad at all. Tastes a bit like walnut. Now that's another interesting bush tucker. It's a thing called the brachychiton, and it's one of the few items actually used by the northern pioneers. Here's some of those brachychiton seed pods around here. 3, 4. That's no good. Some of them have still got the seeds inside. That one's no good. They've all fallen out. Rubbish. 4 has been in that one. He's no good. Now this is exactly what I'm after. This bloke here with all the seeds sitting in the pod. Keep that one. Keep that one too. Be able to use both them later on in the camp. One of those old flower drums. Don't get them too often. They're a pretty useful item. Out here, you make use of all the resources you can, right down to the hot water that comes out of the artesian bores. No, just because you live and work out the bush doesn't mean to say you got to turn into a grub. So the best thing to do is to keep on top of your washing. Now there's a couple of things you can do. You can hand wash if you want to, or you can make yourself a bit of a washing machine like this. Get that tight. All it is a jam tin cleaned out. I've screwed it onto a lump of wood to get it down very tight. And the end of the jam tin, it's got a little rubber washer at the end there. It flops up and down as you push the thing up and down in the water. As it goes up, it lets the water go that way, but it doesn't let it go back the other way. And that's how you get your agitator action. Put him over there, bump him up and down. Works like a beauty. You know, I know some blokes who, when they're doing their washing, they've got a cold beer to drink. Well, due to a whole bunch of poor planning, all I've got's this book to read. Never mind, should be right. Last century, when the explorer Leichhardt moved through this Gulf country, it took him months. Nowadays, you can make the same trip in about 3 or 4 days. Now, a lot of people, if they are driving around this country here, probably reckon it was pretty boring. It's not the case at all, though. Some of these trees out here could talk. Oh, gee, they'd tell a tale or two. Come on, I'll show you what I mean. This is the cycad tree. At different times during the year, it produces a nut which you can eat, but it's very, very poisonous, and it takes a lot of work to sort it all out. Not in season at the moment, though. But really, I think the fascinating thing about these trees is their age. They take around about 100 years to grow 2 metres. So this one here would have to be just a little baby around about the time that we had Federation here in Australia. And this bloke over here, he would have been brand new about the time of the First Fleet. And that old one in the background going all the way up to the top, he's about 500 years old. And that means that basically he was a little tiny plant around about the same time that Columbus set off to sail around the world. When you think about it, walking around this country with these trees here like this really does make you feel like a bit of a Johnny-come-lately. That's the Leichhardt tree. It's a tremendous big shade tree. Sometimes it's even called the Leichhardt pine. When you look up into the trunk of the whole thing, look at those branches sticking out there at right angles, that's where it gets that name from.